Okay, so here's my story. About a few months ago, I switched from my MacBook Pro to the latest G14. I mean, I'm primarily a Windows user, an Android guy now, so I told myself, what the heck, let's just do it. I made a 3-month review 4 months ago, and now, well, it's been 7 months since I've been using mine. And how do I use it, you might ask? Well, I've realized that it's either the laptop I travel with, the laptop I dock at home, or the laptop I use Parsec with. From time to time, I did like to game, although recently it hasn't been much, and for the longest time it's been on my mind to get back into coding, particularly the kind of vibe coding everyone talks about. However, again, I haven't had that much time, but I've put this through its paces, and ever since I've downloaded G Helper, things have gotten a bit better. And so after lots of trips, lots of bags, lots of transporting, I do want to say that this aluminum chassis has been holding up well. I haven't cleaned it or anything like that, so this is literally what it looks like. The body does, however, have some minor scratches here and there. Some are deep to the point where I started exposing the bare metal underneath, but you really have to use it pretty roughly for it to get there. It's also got some black smudges from rubbing against sometimes cameras in my bags or random stuff really. It's just part of my job, right? My job is to push these devices to show you how they hold up, so I'm not really the most careful with them. On the sides and around the ports, most of it is fine. There are no scratches around them, and especially around the USB-C, everything looks completely fine. And then the inside, well, it's actually pretty clean. So far the keyboard shows no signs of wearing down, it's been holding up extremely well, the quality remains exactly the same as to when I got it, and the same thing goes for the trackpad really. Just a little quick remark I want to make because I feel like some of you guys will worry about this, but with the white, you'll only get a few little black smudges of dirt here and there. They come off super easily if you clean it properly, and also I haven't seen any yellowing from the keycaps, especially keys that you tend to press quite a lot, the space bar, maybe enter, backspace, and the same thing goes with the trackpad. So yeah, no yellowing up to now, so that's really good. Now, I haven't opened this in a bit, and I usually let this run on my desk at the condo for days, so I was excited to see the dust accumulation in here. When I opened it up, I was expecting this to have quite a bit of dust, and it does get really dusty in our apartment, so I was ready to start using the duster to remove some debris, but no. Laptop inside has been clean, and I got honestly like nothing to say because with proper settings, thermals are solid. But the only complaint I have that's related to the inside of this laptop is that, well, I wish the G14's RAM wasn't soldered. I think letting us add our own RAM would give Asus a huge edge over the competition on a laptop like this. With all of this, I'm happy to confirm that installing G Helper was definitely a good choice. The way I've got it all set up is that for the most part, well, I of course make sure G Helper runs on startup. I use it a lot to also check that all my components are up to date. I've done a couple of BIOS updates through it. I've also updated a few drivers as well. G Helper also lets me know if my GPU isn't up to date. It really comes in clutch, honestly. On the topic of updates, I did a Windows update recently that I really shouldn't have. It's been all over the internet and I made a TikTok about it, but it's an update that can literally break your SSD. You can roll back your updates, but it's really important you watch out for that Windows package. It's currently affecting a lot of people and it seems like it's worse than what it looks like. When it comes to G Helper, it's lightweight, it's not bloated, it loads way faster, and there isn't a bunch of limitations. I also created my own custom fan and power profiles not long ago, and they work super well. I found these within Crimson's tech channel, so shout out to him for helping the G14 community out. I mainly tweaked my silent and turbo profiles to either try to have the best battery life I could, or the best performance for gaming and video editing. And throughout my research, I did come across Reddit posts noticing that enabling CPU boost increases the clock speeds to squeeze out extra performance, but it also drives temperatures too high to be worth it, so I wouldn't recommend using it. Now with these profiles, you'll definitely benefit from some really nice performance benchmarks. On his custom turbo profile, you'll notice great improvements, especially in games like Starfield for example. It will run cooler and faster exactly like he mentioned. And then in silent mode, I've noticed the laptop run cooler for hours, whether it's connected to my entire setup or not. I've noticed it runs at around 46 degrees on average for the CPU without the fans kicking in once. And I did a few tests, more specifically with battery before and after my custom profile. I also wanted to make sure that leaving this laptop connected to a 140 watt USB-C dock most of the time didn't damage the battery. Turns out that, well, it doesn't seem to hurt it that much. According to G-Helper, I still have 96% of my original capacity. Now, I ran my first battery test before tweaking my G-Helper silent mode, like the other day for example, on the stock silent profile from 10:20 AM with about 93%. In just under an hour of taking calls and browsing the web, I had dropped to about 74%. And then I left the computer in sleep mode and came back to it at around 3 PM with 66%. With these G-Helper settings and the laptop still in silent mode, I spent about 2 hours playing with GenSpark in order to build some web tool I was trying to code. So I was mainly using Chrome to be honest the entire time. At the end of it all, with a screen time of about 2 hours and some heavy Chrome usage, the laptop was at about 41%. In conclusion, in 2 hours I was able to eat about 27% of my battery life. So basically in 3 hours I went from 93% to about 41%, and you can get an extra 3 hours with the same workflow provided you don't go too crazy. I'd say in total you can get about 6 to maybe 7 hours of use. But Crimson's Tech custom silent profile helped a lot. You can pull a bit more performance for the same battery life. So the last test I did was pretty heavy when it comes to regular usage. I mean, just to give you an idea, from 8 AM under these G-Helper settings, with a keyboard backlight on level 1, screen cranked to full brightness, and speakers at around 80%, I was able to get 5 hours of use. And I did a lot, like whether I was listening to a podcast for hours, sorting footage, using Google Docs, watching YouTube videos, fixing some PowerShell issues, using Notion, basically using all of these apps at once and more. I was able to go from 8 AM till about 1 PM. And in between, I think the laptop as a whole was in sleep mode for about 30 minutes in total. That was about it. Oh, there you go. Died. It's currently 1:12 PM. Look, my battery is practically brand new. In fact, according to G-Helper, I think it's 96% of its original capacity or whatever. So that's good. Now, with the custom profile that I sort of got from Crimson's Tech channel, you guys should check him out again. I am able to push about 5 hours and a half. And you guys saw, I mean, I was running a podcast in video form for the whole time, or a YouTube video doing research and stuff like that. So that's what I've been doing for the past 5 hours. And now here's the thing. I'm going to run one more test from 0 to 100 using the original brick and see how long it takes to charge. Currently 1:15 PM. So let's see how long it takes. So I got the original 200 watt charger that came with this PC, and I plugged it all into the laptop. From 1:20 PM till about 2:20 PM, in an hour, you can get to about like 90%. And the cool part is that, well, with my dock and that 140 watt cable I have at home, it's able to charge the laptop while in use quite fast. Like, I timed it, and from a 57% charge, you can go all the way to 91% in about 35 minutes. So yeah. When it comes to the display, the G14's OLED screen looks incredible. I love it. I did start trying to keep it as clean as possible because fingerprints on this OLED panel can be quite annoying. I've already mentioned it, but it's not the same as the MacBook's mini LED display. The MacBook has a slightly higher resolution, and while both claim super high contrast ratios, they achieve them like differently. OLED pixels can turn off completely for true blacks, while mini LED uses like thousands of dimming zones to get close, although you might still notice a bit of blooming in dark scenes. but it's very negligible on MacBooks. But where the MacBook really stands out is with brightness. Its mini LED panel can get much brighter, especially in HDR, which in theory it means highlights like sunlight or reflections pop more compared to the G14's OLED panel. And at the end of the day, all of this sounds big on paper, right? But in practice, well, your eyes are ever hardly gonna pick it up, like really. And no, there's no such thing as text fringing on this laptop. I think the only things that bother me is that one, the glossy look on this OLED panel has too much of a glossy look. It's kind of hard to like explain. I find this like outputs these bluish smudge sort of reflections from time to time. I also have this weird glitch where my playback glitches or desaturates as I move around the content, which is weird. And I thought this was an issue, but it's not. But G-Helper oversaturates my display in Ultimate, and I couldn't figure out for the longest time why it would do it. But Ultimate is basically for gaming, right? So the tool assumes you will be gaming, which is why within the NVIDIA control panel, you'll see the vibrance all the way at 73%. So it's not really an issue, but I thought it was an issue, although here is why that happens. With this in mind, I mean, I use it a lot as my second display in standard mode. The truth is, well, I dock this laptop a lot, and I barely use its 200-watt brick charger because I charge it via Thunderbolt. Again, to give you an idea of how quick mine charges with that setup, in about an hour and a half or so, you can go from 57% to 90%, and it's funny because the laptop will definitely let you know you're using a slow charger, although it's not as slow as I thought it would be. Thermals are also really good when it's docked. Before my custom profile though, the CPU did run at around 65 degrees when docked for the most part with the silent stock profile. Now, with a tweaked silent profile, I can run it at 45 degrees constantly for hours, as long as I'm not editing or gaming, of course. If I do spin off a game like Starfield on my monitor, I do connect the 200-watt charger to get the most from the G14, and the temps do go up with my turbo mode enabled. I get constantly about 80 degrees, I'd say. And keep in mind, this here means that my entire setup is connected while gaming on this beast. Thermals are also never really been an issue while it's plugged into my monitor. The only issue I've had here is that sometimes if I leave the laptop docked for too long, it has a really hard time getting out of sleep mode. I'm still getting that issue where if I leave the laptop docked, it just doesn't respond. Like, let me show you. So like it's on. I know it's on for a fact because you can sort of see the lights. I don't know if you guys can see the lights, but they're on in the back, so the laptop is on. And sometimes what will happen is that some lights randomly appear and then they go away, so I have to like force restart it. Okay. There you go. And I don't know if it's my GPU giving me some issues, but sometimes when it's connected to my monitor, the monitor goes sort of berserk. Like a bunch of lines appear, green, yellow, whatever. It depends on the content I'm currently consuming, but some weird stuff happens. It doesn't happen on the laptop, but it happens here. Anyways, I don't know if it's an update or something, but it's quite annoying. The last thing and my favorite thing about this laptop is the 5080 in here. I will acknowledge that you can't make everyone happy though. There is barely an improvement over the 5070 Ti, and the 5080 also comes at a really steep price tag, so if you're considering buying this, take a look at what the 5070 Ti has to deliver and see if it's enough for your needs. But on my end, because I have the 5080, I can only speak for myself. For me, the 5080 has been a GPU that really goes above and beyond what I need. Like with video editing, for example, I can easily open super complex timelines and run these extremely smoothly without a single hiccup. With that open, I can easily take care of some Lightroom work, some Photoshop work, have a ton of videos running in the background, all of it without being plugged in, but definitely expect about 2 hours of use in terms of battery life. And then when I'm done, if I want to game, I can easily spin off Starfield and get some really good frames per second while gaming. That said, for gaming, frame rates can be noticeably better when the laptop's connected to power, of course. For my 3-month review, Nothing about the GPU has changed really. I just wish there was a way to support these power-hungry graphics cards without having to bring these massive bricks around. Because to be honest, aside from battery life not being the best, which is to be expected, the biggest drawback is having to lug around this massive power brick whenever I need to tap into the full performance of the GPU. Something that the MacBook just doesn't need, and it makes the trade-off here really simple. Do you want a game and have the better GPU out of the two? Because that is exactly what you'll get with something like the G14. On the other hand, with the MacBook, you'll get better battery life and ease of use because macOS for the most part is really stable. Windows, on the other side, it has its usual quirks like the occasional bad update or drivers glitching or even the laptop refusing to wake up properly after sitting docked for a few days. Honestly, besides that, this is easily my favorite Windows option that competes directly with a MacBook. For gaming, GPU rendering, or AI tools, the G14 is the one to get. But if you care about longevity, battery life, coding, and proper portability, you might want to get a MacBook. Personally though, I will be sticking to the G14, especially at home since I like using Parsec from Windows to Windows, and if I can find time to game, it becomes like insanely useful. Overall though, if you guys think I missed anything throughout my entire experience, let me know down below.